Welcome to the Small Business Requirements and Resources webinar for starting a business in Washington State. This webinar is brought to you by Washington State Small Business Liaison Team, often referred to as the SBLT. Today, we will provide helpful information for starting a business in Washington, and our focus will be on state requirements. Please understand that most of the counties and cities you plan to operate in will have additional requirements you must adhere to. Please contact them for help with their regulations. At a minimum, you'll need an additional business license for most of the cities and some of the counties you operate in. We will be talking about this in more detail later in the presentation. There are also federal regulations you'll need to research and follow. Before we start, I want to tell you what we're not going to talk about today. This webinar is not going to cover market assessment, details of business planning, financing, or other business management practices. We encourage you to attend one or more workshops covering those topics. Today, we will be introducing you to some resources that can help you with planning and managing a business, but our focus is on state requirements. Here are 6 steps which we'll be addressing in this presentation. We're going to talk about various business startup resources that will help you prepare for starting a business, not the least of which is making a business plan. We will talk about various ways to structure your business and how to form the business entity. You'll learn about getting required license and permits, also the requirements for submitting your state tax and required reports. You will learn about employer requirements, and finally, we will be connecting you with nonprofit organizations that can accelerate your success by providing advisors and other forms of support. You don't have to do this alone. Watch the title of the slide to keep track of which step we're on. Let's get started with step 1 and talk about many resources available to you, and then we'll dig a little deeper into each one. Business.wa.gov is a website that is going to be the place to start when looking for resources. Small Business Guide is a great reference guide for all phases of your business, from starting to running and growing. Training and advising programs will help you get prepared, especially if you're starting a business for the first time. There are many resources to help you work smarter and accelerate your success. The Small Business Liaison Team, that's us, along with our colleagues from more than 24 other state agencies, we're here to help you, so lean on us. I'm going to business.wa.gov now and share my screen. If you have a cell phone handy, or if you know how to view in the browser in a separate window on your computer, please go to business.wa.gov and follow along. Doing so will make it easier to find these resources later. The first thing you may notice in this website is asking you to select one or more cities of interest to you. This will help us filter information that is relevant to operating in those cities. It is easy to edit the list so you can make your best guess and update it later if needed. You can pick up from the list or just type in the names of the cities. If you think of this website as the access point for many resources you may need. There's a lot of information here that you can browse through later, but here are a couple of important pages on this site. The SBRR workshops. You can download today's presentation and you can register for future resources and impact workshops when you're ready for that. When we discuss the Small Business Guide in a minute, you can access it here. Click on the menu and you'll see direct links to many resources. In fact, the bulk of everything we talk about today can be accessed through the website. It is an incredibly extensive and helpful site with information and important links. While starting and operating a business is challenging, finding what you need to know doesn't have to be. Let's talk about Small Business Guide next. The Washington Small Business Guide is very comprehensive. In addition to including the steps to take in starting a business, it includes information about the decisions you need to make before taking those steps. It includes Washington state requirements and resources, but goes well beyond that, providing federal and local requirements, general best practices, and links to small business advising and training resources. The Small Business Guide is broken into 6 sections based on your stage of the business and the kind of information you need. The sections are plan your business, start your business, payroll, what you need to know and do to pay employees, open your business for out-of-state employers, opening operations in Washington, run your business, which covers ongoing activities for your business operations, including recurring reporting and tax requirements. Grow your business, which includes a variety of resources to facilitate business growth, and finally, close your business for when you're ready to transition. The business guide is accessible online, but is also available as a PDF, so you can have a printed reference manual. The PDF is available in English, Spanish, Korean, Russian, Mandarin, and Vietnamese. As a new business, you'll want to focus on plan, start, run sections for now. If you're going to have employees soon, you'll also want to read through payroll. Planning and starting a business is a big step that may require some in-person assistance. So let's talk about training and advising programs. In addition to online resources, we want to make sure you know about Washington many free and low-cost small business resources centers training and advising programs. If you want to reach your business and financial goals as efficiently as possible, take advantage of these valuable services. A common problem for small business owners is that without prior experience and training, you can miss important steps and requirements, which can have devastating impacts. It also means you may miss out on tools, tips, and resources, which will have provided a great boost. Don't be one of those business owners. Be informed so you can work smarter. Prepare before you start your business by accessing free or low-cost trainings available from one of the providers listed on business.wa.gov. These resources are free or low cost because they are sponsored, they are top-notch organizations, and some will even provide funding if you complete their training. At the end of this presentation, we have a slide that will list links to several of these resources. The last resource I will mention today is the Small Business Liaison Team, live people from more than 24 different state agencies who are committed to supporting you and Washington small businesses. If you can't find what you're looking for through business.wa.gov, or you need more detailed information, assistance, or support, you'll find the phone numbers and email addresses to team members who will be happy to hear you out and provide individualized help. You can download the SBLT contact sheet on business.wa.gov. And finally, set yourself up for success by making a business plan. There are many forms this can take. Some are very brief, but it is important to plan your path. If this is not your strong suit, get help from one of the resources listed on business.wa.gov. SCORE and SBDC are just several options that are free and can help you get started. Of course, there is a plan section to the small business guide that links you to these resources. So that wraps up my presentation on resources and planning. But as you listen to the rest of the webinar, you will see there are a number of considerations you'll need to include in your business plan. For example, our next presenter is going to talk about how you can structure your business and the steps that you need to take to make it official. So now I would like to introduce you to Sonia Moore from the Office of Regulatory Innovation and Assistance. She'll take over for the next part of the presentation.
Thank you, Hugo. I'm Sonia Moore, and I'll be discussing the next step to starting a business in Washington, how to form your business. We're going to address some common options for business structures and what to do for each. One of the first decisions you'll make will be what form of organization will your business be? With one owner, common choices are sole proprietorship, limited liability company, or LLC, or a corporation. What form of ownership you select is an important decision that can have long-term consequences. Make sure you do your research. A good place to start is the Small Business Guide, mentioned earlier on business.wa.gov, specifically in the Start Your Business section. Keep in mind there is not a graduated process for starting a business and upgrading the structure when you get bigger. For example, going from a sole proprietorship to an LLC. A better practice is to consider what you think your business will be in 5 years as you start that business type. In the Start section of the Small Business Guide, you'll find an unofficial chart for comparison of business types. Things like limiting personal liability, growth plans, financing, and federal taxes. By the way, if you're wondering about S Corps and C Corps, as an IRS subchapter S Corporations, that's a federal tax classification, not a type of ownership. For the Washington State's perspective, a S Corp and C Corp are just corporations. Your first step to forming your business depends on what ownership structure you choose. All corporations and LLCs start with the Secretary of State. Sole proprietorships and most general partnerships start with the Department of Revenue. Some reasons are corporations and LLCs are legal entities separate from the owner. They can sue and be sued, buy and sell property, and be taxed separate from the ownership. These structures require a different level of transparency and are required in the public record. If you choose to be an LLC or corporation, you'll start here with the Secretary of State Corporations Division. With an LLC, you will complete a certificate of formation. With a corporation, you'll be completing articles of incorporation. You can also decide to file an initial report at the time of filing or up to 120 days later. The cost to file a legal entity is $200 for profit, $50 for nonprofit. It takes around 2 business days for an online filing. But that's just the registration. To properly be an LLC or corporation with the desired limited liability and other benefits, you'll have to operate like one. That starts with the governance documents, an LLC operating agreement, or for a corporation, bylaws. Even if it's just you in the business by yourself, you'll want to learn about these documents, what to put in them, and how they can affect your business down the road. But there's more to know than that. Like mentioned before, you are creating an organization separate from yourself legally, and you'll need to be mindful of keeping that separation distinct and following best practices. Do your research about what being an LLC or corporation requires, and consider consulting an attorney to advise you now and in the future. In this slide, you'll watch the video with the basic examples of how to file in the CCFS filing system. The video will show you what to fill out and the information you'll need to complete it. For example, you'll need to name your new entity. You must include LLC or limited liability company in an LLC's name, or corporation, corp, incorporated, or Inc. in a corporation's name. The name must be distinguishable from anything on record. This will be your business's legal name, which you can choose to use as your business's operating name or not. You might instead choose to have a trade name or a DBA, a doing business as, name, which we'll discuss a little later. You'll need to name an executor. This can be anyone. This is the person who is completing and submitting the entity filing. With small businesses, that would commonly be the owner or one of the primary owners. You'll need to name the governors, the people who have authority to act on behalf of your business. Governor is a generic term that includes all of the common position names like president, CEO, member, manager, director. With small businesses, your governors commonly include all of your owners. You'll need to designate a registered agent, someone available during business hours at a physical address in Washington. Small business owners commonly name themselves as the registered agent, but you can name someone else who consents to the responsibility or engage a service to take that role. You can designate an additional mailing address for regular mail, but not in place of a physical address. Virtual addresses like FedEx, UPS, and other artificial business addresses are not accepted for the physical location. The Secretary of State will issue you a State Unified Business Identifier, or UBI number. That's your business's Washington State ID number. You'll also need a federal ID number, which you can apply for on the IRS website. Federal ID numbers are typically called EINs, employer identification numbers, even if you're not an employer. You may also see the term FEIN or TIN for taxpayer identification number. They're just different names for the same number. EINs aren't just for corporations and LLCs. You'll need an EIN if you plan to be a partnership or a sole proprietorship with employees. A sole proprietorship without employees can use the owner's social security number as the business's federal ID number, but that's not recommended. It can make your social security number more vulnerable to fraud. If you have a corporation or LLC registered in another state and want to conduct business in Washington, you'll want to complete a foreign entity registration for Washington. Foreign refers to anything non-Washington. If you don't do so, you may be operating without the legal protections that you have in your state, including limited liability or tax considerations. Talk with your attorney for more information on if you meet the definition of doing business in Washington. Registering your company in Washington is easy. You can do it online for $200 and have it completed in a couple of days, or on paper for $180 processed in the order received. Now, on to the next topic with Tanya Dassau from the Department of Revenue.
Thank you, Sonia. Hello, I'm Tanya Dassau with the Department of Revenue Business Licensing Service. Now on to step 3, getting licenses and permits. Here's what we'll cover: the licensing wizard, creating a SAW account, general licensing questions, trade name registrations, hiring plans, and other licenses and permits that may apply. Registering with the Secretary of State as an LLC or corporation does not create your tax and licensing accounts. You'll need to go here to the Department of Revenue's website for that. And if you've decided to be a sole proprietorship or partnership, you'll establish your business through the licensing process here, as you can see on our website. But before we walk you through those steps, we want to tell you about a great tool, the Business Licensing Wizard. The wizard will take you through a series of questions and steps. At the end, you'll get a customized list of licenses and permits you'll need, given your form of ownership, industry, location, hiring plans, and other key information. This is a great tool to use before you start the application process because it'll tell you all the specific licenses and permits you'll need. If you're not sure about what you want to do and where, you can enter multiple scenarios and see what each requires. Note that the wizard doesn't actually register you. The purpose is just to tell you what you will need to start the registration process with the Department of Revenue and locations for the business scenario you entered. Many businesses are mobile, which gives great access for your customers, but adds some complexity for licensing. Most cities where you do business will require that you have a local license. So what do you do if you don't know where all you'll be working? Get the local license for where you're based and the ones for where you're pretty sure you'll be. You can add others later. It can take a couple of weeks for cities to approve, so be sure to apply well before you need the license. On the flip side, most local licenses are annual, so if you won't be working in a city for several months, you may want to wait. Let's assume you've completed your scenario in the wizard and you have your list of things that you'll need. Your next step is to complete the actual business license. First, you'll need a Secure Access Washington or SAW account if you don't already have one. This is required for the Department of Revenue as well as other state agencies like the Departments of Labor and Industries, Employment Security, Social and Health Services, and licensing. The good news is, once you've created a Secure Access Washington ID, you'll use that for many Washington state agencies. If you don't have one, you'll need to create one and can do so right on the Department of Revenue's website or on the Secure Access Washington portal. This is a snapshot of Secure Access Washington or SAW portal. As I mentioned in the previous slide, you can register for a SAW account on the Department of Revenue's website or by going directly to secureaccess.wa.gov. Okay, so you check the licensing wizard. You've got yourself a Secure Access Washington user ID. Next, go to our My DOR help pages for a list of additional questions you'll be asked during the application process. You can find them at dor.wa.gov/apply. It's a good idea to have all the information gathered before you begin your application. If you registered as an LLC or corporation, you'll need the Unified Business Identifier, UBI number, assigned by the Secretary of State before beginning the business license application. If you'll be a sole proprietorship or a general partnership, the Department of Revenue will assign the UBI through the licensing process. As this slide shows, you'll need to input information about owners, the industry, and the business location or locations, including the address and city. If your business will be based inside city limits, it's likely you'll need a local business license. You'll be able to register with most cities in the business license application. If your business will do work in multiple cities, you'll likely need multiple local business licenses. Most Washington City partners with the Department of Revenue, so you can get your city and state license at the same time. For every city you plan to work in, check the Department of Revenue's city page first. If you don't see your city listed, be proactive and go check the city's website to ensure that you don't miss a licensing requirement. Note that many cities have tax and return filing requirements as well. For example, a few of the bigger cities like Seattle, Bellevue, Tacoma, and Everett have their own process, so you'll need to contact them directly. Just know before you open so you can include those tax costs of doing business in your pricing model, and so you don't get behind on paying your taxes right from the start. And you'll need to estimate your annual revenues. Many new businesses don't know what to put there. Ideally, for the benefit of you and your business success, you have a business plan and projection, which should give you an idea. But rest assured that no one expects you to get this number right. What it does is helps the Department of Revenue set up your reporting frequency. If the reality is significantly different from your estimate, they may alter that frequency. Let's talk about trade names. What name will your business operate under? For sole proprietorship, you could use your own legal name, or for an LLC or corporation, you can use the name you filed with the Secretary of State. Any name you want to use other than your official licensed business name is considered a trade name. You can file for one or more trade names from the start through the state licensing process, or you can add them at a later date by revising your business license. Registering a trade name means that the name that you register will be legally affiliated with your licensed business entity. It's a DBA, doing business as. However, it does not mean that you own the name. For that, you would need a trademark, nor does it provide any assurance that you're not infringing upon someone else's trademark. Before you select a name, do your homework. The Department of Revenue's Registered Trade Name webpage has links to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office and other databases. Do searches through various search engines as well. In building a business, you'll be building brand equity. You may well want to control that name, so it's good to select a name you can trademark later if you choose to. Also, you'll want to do your homework so you don't receive a cease and desist letter from another business telling you that you're infringing on their trademark and you must change your name or be sued. Registering a trade name is $5 per name plus a processing fee. If you're registering a name with your initial business license, you'll pay $50 for the state business license, $5 for the trade name, and potentially other fee amounts for the local business licenses. If you want a trade name later, you'll pay $10 for revising your business license and $5 for trade name registration. Related to hiring, you'll need to be ready to address these 3 questions when you complete the licensing form. Will you be using independent contractors? There's a lot of misunderstanding about the independent contractor relationship, so I'll address that further with the next slide. Will you hire staff in the next 90 days? If you say yes to this question, your information will automatically be sent to the Employment Security Department and the Department of Labor and Industries to get your business set up with the required accounts for unemployment insurance, paid family and medical leave, and workers' compensation insurance. Having the accounts set up automatically makes it easy for you when it's time to do your quarterly reporting. But be aware that Employment Security and Labor and Industries will be expecting those reports, and you're required to file them whether or not you had employees during a particular quarter. There will be no cost for filing a report if you had no employees, but there may be a penalty if you fail to file a timely report. What type of work will your employees do? Labor and Industries needs to have a basic idea of what they will be doing in order to determine the risk class and rate for workers' compensation insurance. Workers' comp covers employees who are injured on the job. And will you employ anyone under 18? If so, you'll need a minor work permit. By checking that box, the information will automatically be sent to Labor and Industries youth employment staff, who will ensure that the activities are approved for minors and that you get the information you need regarding special requirements. If you don't plan to hire employees soon, but may want them in the future, no worries. At that time, you can just return to Department of Revenue's website and revise your business license to become a registered employer. There's a $10 processing fee when you revise your business license for hiring or other reasons. Now back to that question of independent contractors. It's not uncommon for small businesses to engage independent contractors, but often many of those contractors don't actually meet the federal or state requirements and would actually be considered employees based on the law. There's a lot of misunderstanding here. It doesn't matter how many hours they work for you, how much they earn, or what you call them. If they don't pass the independent contractor test, you're required to consider them employees, follow employment laws, and put them on your payroll. Definitely take a look at this Labor and Industries publication and website where you can go through that test and learn more. But back to the business license application. If you plan to hire independent contractors, you'll want to include that. Many businesses require additional licensing and permitting. Architects, real estate agents, certified public accountants, hairstylists, and many others must have professional licensing in addition to their business licensing. The Washington Department of Licensing handles many of those. Additionally, all businesses that are involved in building, remodeling, and various home improvement services are required to be registered as contractors through Washington Department of Labor and Industries. And food-related businesses require permits from the local county health department. Those that serve alcohol must have liquor licenses from Washington Liquor and Cannabis Board. Your facility may need building, fire departments, or other permits, and there are others. So where do you learn about all these? Well, remember the business licensing wizard we described earlier. It will tell you about many of them, but you'll also want to check with your city, county, industry associations, advisors, competitors, and others. Now we're going to shift from business licensing requirements to taxes with my colleague, Michael Crawford.
Thank you, Tanya. In this step, we'll be focusing on your tax and reporting requirements. We'll cover business and occupation tax, sales tax, use tax, real and personal property tax, and if you have employees, state unemployment tax, paid family and medical leave, and workers' compensation insurance premiums. In Washington, we do not have an individual or business income tax. Instead, we have a business and occupation tax, which is imposed on most businesses. The business and occupation tax is a gross receipts tax. There are no deductions for expenses or costs of doing business. There are over 20 B&O tax classifications. The major classifications are retailing, wholesaling, and service and other activities. Depending on your specific type of business activity, you may need to report under more than one classification. For example, if you make a product and sell it to consumers, you'll report under manufacturing and retailing with an offsetting credit, but that's a whole other class. Sign up for the Department of Revenue's Business Tax Basics webinar to get more specific info on tax liabilities. While there are no deductions for business expenses, there are some other limited deductions. For example, if you sell a product and ship it out of state, you can deduct that income. Our Business Tax Basics webinar covered deductions as well. I said that most businesses are taxable under the B&O tax. To close the loop on that, if you are in the business of transporting people or goods for hire, maybe like Uber or Uber Eats, you are taxable under the public utility tax. Again, the B&O and public utility taxes are on the business. You should not be charging your customers these taxes. We have tools to help you determine what classification applies to your business. Our tax classifications for common business activities page is a great place to start for your cut to the chase answer. For example, accounting. For more detailed information, we have many industry guides. Sales and use tax. You are all familiar with sales tax, right? This is the tax you collect from your customers on most sales. The retail sales tax, often referred to simply as sales tax, is Washington's largest tax source. Local sales tax is the second largest revenue generator for local governments behind property tax. All sales tax amounts collected from customers are considered trust funds of the state. These amounts are to be held by the retailer until remitted to the Department of Revenue. Retail sales tax is due not only on the sale of things like a hairdryer and clothes and prepared food, it's also due on certain services. If you're performing a service where you are installing, repairing, cleaning, altering, or improving tangible personal property, you must collect sales tax. Retail sales tax must be collected on the full price, including shipping and handling charges. Sales tax is also due on many services and activities, including certain amusement and recreational activities, lawn maintenance, and physical fitness activities. Sellers are personally responsible for remitting the correct amount of sales tax, even if they did not collect the proper amount or any amount from the purchaser. Also, if you over-collected the sales tax by collecting at the wrong rate or on products that should not have been taxed, you would have to return it to the buyer or remit it to the department. If you don't pay sales tax on things you're buying to use in your business, you most likely will owe use tax. You can learn about use tax in our Business Tax Basics webinar. Sales tax varies throughout the state. You must charge the rate when your customer is receiving the goods or services. Local tax collected is based on location of sale, generally where the customer receives the good or service, your storefront, or a delivery point. Revenue has several tools to help you determine the correct sales tax rate to charge. Our mobile app is the best, especially if you're on the go, like at a job site or making a delivery. We also have several tools on our website, from tax rate flyers to downloadable files for your point of sale system, to a lookup screen similar to the mobile app. Most people know that property tax applies to real property, such as land and improvements to land. Property tax also applies to personal property used in conducting business, when not exempt by law. The chief characteristic distinguishing personal property from real property is mobility. Personal property includes machinery, equipment, furniture, and supplies. It doesn't include business inventories for resale. Contact your county directly for property tax information. We have a list on our website shown here at dor.wa.gov/county contacts. And now, with more on taxes, Andrew Bryan from the Department of Labor and Industries.
Thank you very much, Michael. Greetings, everyone. I'm Andrew Bryan with the Department of Labor and Industries, or what you'll commonly hear as L&I, because acronyms are our love language. I'm the lucky guy who gets to go over everyone's other favorite topic, employment taxes. These are the state employment taxes you can expect to pay once you become an employer. State unemployment taxes are paid to the Employment Security Department, otherwise known as ESD, and they're calculated by multiplying taxable wages by the tax rate. Your specific rate is going to be provided to you by the Employment Security Department once they establish your account. There is a taxable wage limit of $67,600 per employee this year, meaning you won't be paying unemployment taxes above that amount, but you'll still report all wages. Here's an example of how that works. If the employee's salary is $55,000, you're going to pay unemployment taxes on all of that $55,000. If the employee's salary is $68,000, you'll only pay taxes on $67,600 of those wages since it exceeds the wage base rate. The $400 that's over the taxable wage base would be considered excess wages. And excess wages are reported for unemployment insurance benefits purposes, but they're subtracted from the employee's total wages. So they don't pay taxes on that amount above the taxable wage base. Paid family and medical leave is also paid to the Employment Security Department. If you have 50 or fewer employees, you don't have to pay anything as the employer, though you can choose to. The total premium rate is 0.8%. Employees pay most of that premium in that 0.8%. In cases where there are more than 50 employees, though, the withholding ratio is going to be roughly 73% coming from the employees and 27% from employers. And beginning on July 1st, 2023, employers will collect Washington Cares premiums from employees, same as for paid family medical leave. Employment Security is going to be updating their paid family medical leave reporting system so that employers can report for both programs at the same time. To learn more about this new program, go to www.wacaresfund.wa.gov. Workers' compensation insurance premiums, on the other hand, are paid to the Department of Labor and Industries. What you'll pay will be based on the number of worker hours. Rates vary greatly depending on the type of job and its historical cost of injuries, which determines your risk classification. So high hazard jobs like construction, you'll pay more. Whereas a low hazard job like computer programming, you're going to pay a lot less. Most of the premium is paid by the employer, but a part can be deducted from the employee's paychecks. This chart is excerpted from the payroll section of the Small Business Guide. Here you'll see those three taxes, what they're for, how and when to report and pay them, and to which agency. The fully linked table, however, also will include your federal payroll tax responsibilities, which you will need to know. In addition to what the payroll section provides, there's further information about your ongoing tax responsibilities in the Run section of the guide. If it's just going to be you as the owner working, well, good news. Business owners typically are not considered employees, so state employment taxes won't be required. Sole proprietors, partners, managing members of LLCs, and corporate officers are exempt. However, family members are typically not exempt unless they're also owners. While they may not be required to participate, owners may want to opt into things like paid family medical leave or workers' compensation insurance coverage. Federal employment taxes are a different animal. Most owners of sole proprietorships, partnerships, and LLCs are going to pay income taxes and Social Security and Medicare taxes through their 1040 tax returns. Working owners of corporations or of LLCs choosing to be taxed like corporations are considered employees, and they're going to be taxed like other employees through their paychecks. So you want to see the IRS website and talk with your accountant for more information on that. All right, let's say we take the next step together, learning employer requirements. Here's what we're going to cover in step 5, hiring employees, your new hire reporting requirements, employer requirements, and some employer services and resources. Now, we've already talked about employment taxes, which are certainly requirements for employers, but guess what? There are many more. I'm sure it comes as no surprise to you that you can learn about them through the Small Business Guide and its links. This is from the Start Your Business section of the guide, but you also find the information in the Grow Your Business chapter as well. Employers are required to report all of their new hires and rehires, including part-time and temporary employees, within 20 days of hire to the Washington Department of Social and Health Services. This information is used for child support collections purposes and unemployment fraud detection. You're going to report the employee's name, address, birth date, social security number, and hire date through the Secure Access Washington website, which you would have already created a login for in order to license your business. There are federal requirements with new hires as well, such as the employer and employee completion of the Department of Homeland Security's I-9 form, and the employee's completion of the IRS W-4 form. You'll find information and links to those forms in, where else? Small Business Guide. Now here's a list of additional employment laws, and as you can see, it is a mighty list. There are even more than what's listed here, but these are some of the major ones. We don't have time to cover them in detail in this webinar, but you know where you can access that information. That's right, through the Small Business Guide. You can also learn more by attending the L&I Essentials for Business webinar, which is offered every month by yours truly, and it's certain to be the most thrilling L&I webinar you will ever attend. Fair warning, I may issue a dad joke or two, but I refuse to issue any refunds, and that's mostly because the webinar is free. By the way, L&I provides many services to employers as well as overseeing requirements. This webinar will also share some of those opportunities and resources with you. The Employment Security Department also offers some really great resources for employers. They include data on local wage rates and free job postings, so please be sure to check them out on the links that we have listed here. Now, that concludes step 5 and learning your employer requirements. Let's say we conclude with our final step. Accelerate your success by meeting with a business advisor. Planning and starting a business is huge, so remember that there are in-person services, things like SCORE, SBDC, and others that can help provide you assistance. Many are free and others are low cost, so please make use of them to help you reach your business and financial goals as efficiently as possible. And those of us who have participated in this webinar today are also very happy to help you now and years into the future. Here's our contact information. Remember, we're part of the Small Business Liaison team, where there are more than 24 others like us from other state agencies who are also committed to small business support. So please do not hesitate to contact us whenever you need help. Now, thank you for spending your time with us here today, and best of luck on starting your new business in Washington State.